Folks, welcome to downtown Tucson, Arizona. Joined by a cat who I got a chance to see about a month ago at the Jackrabbit Lounge, and he just blew my face off with his beautiful runs on the keyboard. And suffice it to say, he has quite a following around this town and a myriad of different groups. Alassane, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
You know, not to get too heavy right away, but I just wanted you to talk a little bit about, especially to cats who are, and myself included, you can start feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
All right, you get caught up in your own ego, and you get caught up and you start wallowing in self-pity. And I just wanted you to talk about, ultimately, this car accident that had a big impact on you. How it has impacted your love of life. Have you been able to let go of some of that self-loathing? Do you realize that you are lucky to be here?
Definitely. That's definitely the case. I think it takes time to unpack traumas on that scale, and even like non-physical, traumas. But yeah, for sure, to come out of that with my life, and my ability to continue to play, definitely allowed for some reframing, for sure. There's a lot of silver linings there, like being forced to stop, for a while, and having to pause and reflect, and not being able to perform, but still being able to write, and explore ideas. That was a big benefit.
I want you to that's interesting. So
Yeah.
just to be clear, you were on tour.
Yeah.
Doing singing for your supper. And then, what was it, the first feeling you felt when it was like, for whatever reason, physically, you actually couldn't play? To me, my anxiety would have gotten really intense at that point. Yet, realizing that you're lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
But
sure.
how did you cultivate the energy to say, hey, listen, I have what I have. I'm going to be able to compose. I can still write. But was that difficult when you take the bandstand away, when you take the apparatus away from the musician, most cats are kind of get in a bad way. How did you handle that?
Totally. To be perfectly honest, I love writing, and I love the isolation that it kind of requires. So it wasn't a huge disruption in that regard.
Actually, maybe some time off. That you were okay physically. But
Yeah.
some time off the bandstand was okay.
Yeah, I think some time off the bandstand was okay. I probably would have just kind of continued to move and hustle without really stopping. And
What did
pausing.
stopping? Did you come up with some of the best compositions you've ever written? Did some of that stuff come across? Is this some?
Certainly the most number of songs. You know what I mean? I'm one of those kind of writers where I have so many germs of a song that have been just lingering for years, if not a decade.
Totally,
you know what I mean? So
It takes a while to put it all together.
Yeah. So the opportunity to catch up on a lot of that stuff was.
What's one
important.
song that you had a germ for quite a while, and you were able to sort of piece together something that you can look on and say that's what it was from its inception, but it took a minute to get to where it needed to be.
Get to where it is. A handful of the material I'm working on right now and recording.
Wow.
So I'm working on an EP right now. And I have the framework for a couple records. There's nothing out right now,
You're not gonna spoil that right now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I don't want to, give it away. But anything that comes out within the next couple of months is part of that body of work for sure.
Does the germ of a tune happen in a dream state? You wake up and write stuff down, or does it come through you at once, or how does that process? Where does the germ of a song come from with you?
Oh man. It's wherever I can find it, Oftentimes it does come in the form of progression or a melody. Sometimes it's a line in a film that triggers an idea, that
Absolutely.
gets me thinking about
Soundtracks are sick.
Yeah, exactly, totally. So, but yeah, certain songs definitely feel like you're kind of, somewhat disembodied, watching it write itself, But that's not often enough to depend on, so beyond that, it is just work at that point.
Right. Which can be a little bit more of a grind.
That's a grind, yeah. Some tunes make you sweat for it, for sure.
No doubt.
Yeah. But yeah, wherever I can find it, man, I think that's part of the fun, is part of what maybe keeps the spirit youthful when being creative, is that it is largely a mystery. You know, there's so many things that can't be answered, and that's part of the joy of it, for sure.
I know. I think it's beautiful. Alassane, you know, I don't know if you were hip to this cat, Dean Brown, who's an amazing fusion guitar player. Was that in that early 80s incarnation of Billy Cobham's band with like Tim Landers and Gil Goldstein. It was just a burning guitar player, and he was too young, and on top of his game. I mean, even after COVID, he was playing baked potato and things like that.
Oh, nice. Love that venue.
But he couldn't have been more than 60 years old, and he got sick and he died.
Oh, damn.
He just passed.
Wow.
And so I'm going back through. I did a couple interviews with him, and I wanted to ask you, because he said this profound thing last night where he's like, whether I'm doing a private lesson or just a seminar or something like that, I try to get cats to think about the idea of, you know, and I want to ask you, can you talk about an early moment when you heard a note in your head, and in that moment you were able to manifest the sound in your head on the apparatus? That to me is, he said that is something that is being able to manifest something that you hear in your head. That doesn't happen right away, but when it does, it opens a corridor to music that a lot of cats don't get to because they're not doing enough ear training. So can you just talk about your ear training, and then ultimately when you felt you got to that point where you were like, I'm hearing this, and then in the moment creation, you were able to get it out of your system?
Yeah, I can try to speak on that.
Riff any way you want.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Well, I would say that for me, starting out, something that I was able to form when I was pretty young was actually being able to like hear chord progressions, and get to, you know, being able to manifest that on the instrument relatively quickly. And
I'm talking about, I should have made it clear, like within a jam where...
Okay, so like in an improvisational context.
You're with cats that are like, maybe you lose the downbeat, but you're just like grooving.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna try that, and you hit it.
And you hit it.
Yeah. Right.
No, I feel those are rare moments, you know, where you're not present, it seems like. You know, it's finally just the music.
How does that feel? The disambiguation? I mean, when you say you don't feel present,
I mean,
feel like
in the best way possible.
You're a vessel.
Yeah, like you're hyper present, but your identity is finally out of the way.
Now we're getting something.
Yeah, and something else is able to come through. I feel it's rare, you know, to have that experience. I feel, but
can you talk about a time when that did happen? I feel like that's when you listen to some of the masters. I don't care if it's Jerry Garcia or McLaughlin or Zappa. Like those guys, they'd have 40 clunker shows waiting for that one moment. All right.
Yeah, totally.
And to me, what Dean was really saying was, there's just a lot of cats who feel like they cannot take their eyes off that paper.
Exactly.
They don't want to do the ear training because it comes from ear training.
Sure, it really does. Yeah, I feel you're kind of chasing the dragon at that point.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It happens once on like a 3-month-long tour. And it's like the only thing that keeps you going, you know, is wanting that experience again.
I mean, it's a natural high is what he was saying. It's a natural high.
Definitely. I think anytime you are just purely present and connected in the moment, it's like the most alive you're going to feel. And it doesn't matter what it is. I think music is a unique medium in the sense where it's like that's the ultimate purpose of it, you know? But
what was it? Is there one that comes to mind, like early on, where you're like, wow, I don't know what that was, but it felt so good?
You know what? Okay, there was this singer named Morris. Blanking on his last name. I want to say it was Gibson.
Vocal cat?
Vocalist.
No, guy here?
He was actually in Phoenix.
Okay.
Incredible singer. And he died. He died from cancer when he was pretty young, and he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Sounded like Al Jarreau and, all those cats. And there was a like memorial kind of concert for him.
Sure.
And there was, I think maybe it was just the intention of why we were there to like honor this person, you know, and just the ambiance in the space was elevated. And I do remember feeling a sense of being just kind of a vessel, you know, that will definitely stay with me.
A conduit.
Sure. Yeah.
You were out of your thinking mind.
Yeah.
It went beyond the human plane.
And it went beyond anything that had to do with like me, you know what I mean, and how I feel about
That's
myself.
the best feeling.
It was
dude.
for
That's
him.
the best feeling in the world.
Yeah. So it's hard to find that balance when you're kind of trying to build your own thing and find your own voice, because you do have to prioritize yourself, as it were. But in performing, yeah, whatever gets you out of your own way, you know, is important. So
You know, I was talking to Patrick Morris a couple weeks ago, and he mentioned that band that I stumbled in on at the Jackrabbit. That was like the first time you guys played as a unit.
yeah.
And it was, that's the best, like, it's almost like a baseball team. Can you get through 9 innings and get the win?
Yeah.
I don't know, but you're cruising
Right.
through 6
Yeah.
innings. How do you, I guess more to the point, like when you're playing with cats that you haven't necessarily played with before, how do you gain their trust? How do they gain your trust? In the sense of, because, you know, you're not, some things become incredibly telepathic once you play a long time with a lot of cats.
Totally.
And maybe you play with Troy a lot, but you haven't played with that band in particular.
That was my first time playing with Troy, I think, when you were
Really?
there. Yeah.
Wow, I feel so honored, dude.
Oh, man.
Because you were just
I'm glad
gliding
you're there.
along, dude.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
No, I think with musicians like that, you'll know within the first 30 seconds where the bottom is, you know, and how far.
What does
you
that
can.
mean?
Just the gravity of their depth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll kind of know right away. Yeah, but it's, you know.
Is it a matter
you're
of just
right.
like comping a lot, like kind of just getting people comfortable? Like, I'm talking about just gaining that trust with the whole unit.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel what you mean.
How do you make everyone
let
feel
me think
comfortable?
about it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel as a keyboardist, I'm somewhat blessed because I can be a little bit more in like a reactive position. It's not really on me to establish that dependability like it is for the bassist and the drummer.
Although you are a percussive
But I am a
instrument
percussive instrument,
and part of the
absolutely.
rhythm section. you know?
Of course, absolutely.
So you can kind of vacillate between, you know, playing the groove and keeping that rhythm, and getting people tight, but without having to be a timekeeper necessarily. Completely.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a gig that I had for a while. It was a steady at this speakeasy called Cashmere's, and it was like a all-black band.
Where was it? Here? or-
No, that was also in Phoenix.
In Phoenix.
Yeah. And these were like heavy R&B gospel dudes that grew up in the church. And there's just a way that they would communicate without having to say anything. Like
Dude,
whether or
that
not
is sick. I need to know more. So it was
you were in-
nonverbal or something?
Nonverbal.
Yeah.
Nonverbal. It was just kind of this like, there wasn't any active like shade being thrown. It wasn't disrespectful, but it was just the sense of like, that wasn't it. You know what I mean? Without saying anything. And I think kind of leaving it to you to piece it together for yourself, like what they mean and what they're talking about.
It was, would you say it was passive shade? And that wasn't shade.
It was like encouraging shade. You know what I mean? It was like respectful shade. Like, I'm not going to talk down to you, but I'm going to leave it to you to kind of figure this out. You know what I mean?
That's the best way to learn, probably.
Yeah, just how to like really be a part of a rhythm section and how to be, you know, on the same wavelength and sort of access that like beta state together, you know? I think it just takes time and experience when it's going to be affected by the caliber of musicians that are on the gig and how much experience they have, how quickly you can access that. But yeah, you also have to like meet people too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like having a conversation with someone, like, where are we going to vibe?
How can we get let's get in the flow.
Where are we compatible?
I mean, you're right, and like most of the time that's not always going to happen. Like
No.
Even that night, I mean, it was sometimes it was a little bit herky jerky. I mean, but it was still funky and groovy as all get out.
Totally.
But
totally.
you know, I don't mind a little. That was my one. That it was going through my head today because I'm promoting a couple of shows.
Oh, nice.
In Los Angeles in April.
Nice.
And the guys that I'm promoting this house, they're called House Band, and they're great. And
Who's in it?
it's Jason Abraham Roberts, Josh Adams. I mean, it's a bunch of badass accompanists who are like just the fiercest, nastiest dudes, and they're basically just playing to the first sound they hear,
Nice.
and they're just going on. I mean, it's
Awesome.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure.
But the funny thing is the music. So they're constantly like, we want this to be perfect. We want it to be perfect. You know, they're really geeked up about it, but they're the musicians, and you know, in terms of like they want a good crowd, they want everything there. But in terms of music, my favorite tunes, I'm listening to this Blue Mitchell tune called Valerie, and I'll send it to you.
Please
and
do,
literally, Herman Riley and Freddie Robinson, all these badasses, and they play through the sax solo.
Okay.
And then there's a splice in the record, and whoever the engineer was, just he put that same solo in twice.
Oh, nice.
So first of all, it's so sick that the guy's like, I mean, it was back with records, it was analog. You couldn't go back and fix it.
Yeah.
I just want to ask Alassane,
please,
your idea of imperfection is perfection. And what I mean by that is what I see today a lot of times in that sort of what we consider jazz or instrumental music.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people that take themselves very seriously, being a huge amount of technique and riffology, demonstration of perfection.
Sure.
But it doesn't feel good. I wind up staring at the wall.
Yep.
Can you talk about where you're at in terms of imperfection is perfection?
Man,
there are no wrong notes.
That's a really, really good question. Something that I think we'll probably always be pondering and thinking about for a long time. There are no wrong notes. I think ultimately that is true. I struggle with, because I do lean heavy on like the composer side, I definitely would be the first to admit that like I can be pretty
anal about
can be pretty neurotic.
It's your tunes. I get it.
And somewhat hyper protective of like a vision.
You're vigilant.
Yeah, exactly. Vigilant. And that can be uncomfortable and straining for the people around, myself included.
You know what I'm talking about? In the flow state, and someone flubs a note, but you just go with it. You know what I'm saying?
I think the biggest and most important thing to remember is like you are not your ideas. You know what I mean? Like you're just playing, and I feel the creative spirit is very innocent. It's kind of like a child. You know, it's like an inner kid. You wouldn't go up to a little kid who's like making a watercolor and be like, that fucking sucks.
Yeah,
dude. Like, you're a piece of shit. Like, what is that? You know? So you do have to kind of treat yourself with that same sensitivity. But it's hard to have high standards and
I completely agree.
Balance, you know?
But I'm saying like
it's imperfection.
You know what it is? Like you're jamming and with cats and maybe someone plays something. That was the point, is that like Herbie used to say that he's like, I keep playing this wrong note.
And Miles made it right.
Miles is like, he's like, they kept saying, put a chord on it. Put a chord on it.
Right.
That to me is like, because that to me, it's not just covering. If you stop and look at the person, then you're just an idiot. To say, but it's the idea of saying that like that's my point, is that there are no wrong notes, even within the course of something. God forbid it. I mean, a recording session now, you can go back and you can clean things up. It's just some
in
of that,
the moment.
Right, some of that grease. I mean, the fact is that it's just one of the coolest tracks, and nobody knows this track.
Course.
Valerie, it's burning, the sax solo goes, and all of a sudden, he's doing the same solo again.
Absolutely.
And it feels so fucking good.
I think because we are imperfect, we, like you said, there's a sort of alienating feeling when you listen to something that's sterilized. You know, you can't connect to it. And the most successful music in history, like just look at the Beatles, for example. You listen to those recordings, like there are so many fuck-ups and like crazy sounding flaws, you know what I mean? But It grounds it, you know what I mean? It's not too ponderous, and there's a levity to it that connects you. And I feel that same resonance is the same when you listen to jazz or some of these moments where there's something wrong, but there's an openness and a willingness to embrace it and keep it in the family, you know.
Do you struggle with the fact that we have too much technology now?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Because it's like, I don't blame you. Like, it's like, well, we can fix it. Why not fix it?
Right.
But it's like with the Beatles, who knows what was going on? I mean, even James Taylor records, I mean, as beautiful as they are, they were playing cardboard boxes to get a certain sound, playing tapes backward.
Yeah.
Some of it, but it just burned.
It did.
It burned.
I feel my concern isn't necessarily with the technology when it comes to the process of making something. I just did a tape session recently up in Oracle, and that required a pretty big learning curve.
Analog.
You know what I mean? Yeah, 100% to tape.
What was that curve like?
Many ego deaths.
Talk about
This
it.
is what you sound like. This is what it is. You know, this is what happened in the moment, and whether or not it correlates with like your ideal, you just kind of have to take it. It went great, and Patrick was on it, and Casey Hadlin, Chris Pena, Ryan Alfred.
I mean, these are top shelf guys.
Joshua Crothers too. We got 2 drummers on it. So
Double drums.
double drums, yeah.
Did everybody hit at the same time?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm loving
live.
this. Whose project is this?
That's my project.
Dude, that's the Jake Feinberg anecdote right there.
Oh, nice, man.
Well, you know what it is? Because it's like, well, that's what I wanted. The other thing I wanted to just instill in you, maybe you're already doing it, but when I interviewed John Simon, he was the great piano player and also heavy producer he did the first couple of band records with Levon Helm.
Nice.
All right. And
that's awesome.
Robbie Robertson, and he goes, the difference in today's music world, all we did was pre-production. So we set the elements, the themes we wanted, and how, no post-production.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
And today I feel like it's been flipped.
It's all post-production. Yeah.
And so to me, like, if you want the music sounding fresh, you get the baddest cats in there.
Yeah.
You get the pre-production.
Yeah.
And yet they didn't have the technology to fix all that stuff.
Totally.
They could fix some of it.
Yeah.
But I wanted you to talk about pre-production. If that's something you want to work on, to me, that's where the music is most vital. As opposed to you could potentially suck all the soul out of it on the post side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel you're always kind of walking that line. For me, it's always really helpful to have like the initial moment recorded, like when I'm first writing something, and then kind of A/B it against like a demo, you know, or a pre-production to kind of see what I'm losing, what I'm gaining, and kind of keep that balance. But no, I totally agree, man. The sterilization of music is a big problem.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, and I feel that's a concern, especially with younger generations, where they're kind of being told that like this is the standard and this is to be expected. They don't know that they can't hear like Melodyne.
My daughters cannot hear.
They can't hear it.
I mean, they hear the authenticity just because they're exposed because of me to all this music, records, and but that's the point.
Yeah.
If they think the bar is synthetic cheese, sterilized cheese.
Yep, exactly.
That is so. That to me is one reason why I have gravitated towards. 13 years in, went to my elders, but now to seek out the younger cats, my peers, younger cats too, because I think that your responsibility is even much greater than you probably even are aware of.
Probably, yeah. I don't like to think about that.
What do you think that your the biggest area of growth for you is as a person or player right now?
Ooh, asking the good questions.
Welcome to the Jake Feinberg show, man.
Honestly, man, just like self-acceptance is a big struggle, you know.
Self-love.
Self-love, yeah. Just, it kind of goes back to there's no wrong notes, you know. Like, and within you as a human being, you know, it's like there are things that might need some work and might need to be perfected and strengthened, but to shame yourself keeps you weak, you know what I mean? It keeps you small, and so...
I just want to say one thing to you, because the Judeo-Christian Western world is full of shame, guilt, and judgment. And I'm more of an Eastern spiritualist, and my philosophy is this: that you let that shame and guilt and judgment fall away. Because here's the point: if you don't love yourself enough, then it's going to be hard to give love to the world. Clearly, you do have a lot of self-love. I have a lot of self-love, almost to the point of maybe too much. But
I can struggle with that too. Yeah.
You know, but the point is that I can tell that you do have self-love because you're able to give it off in your music.
Oh, thank you, man.
All right, but that is the eternal struggle, and any time that you're being beaten down by either the dogma of society or just the fact that you're holding on to something too, I guess there's the point. My point is, the music is not that precious.
Yeah.
It is about inspiring.
Yeah.
That is the point. You don't know the cumulative results of inspiring people. You have no idea someone walks out of the Jackrabbit Lounge and they're a better father, they're a better husband, they're a better person, and they do stuff, and then they grab somebody on the street and do an interview, and they're inspired, and that goes out. And people can say, well, that's hocus pocus, but I know a lot of very famous, wealthy people, and they're not that happy. So that's not what brings happiness.
Yeah.
And I think that is what it's about. Do you live here or do you live in Phoenix?
I live in Tucson. I'm here now, yeah.
So
I moved here in spring of 21, so.
And I just want to know where your steady gigs are at so I can come check you out all the time.
Oh man, I play at Chicago Bar from time to time with Desmond.
Yeah, I saw that. There's
Lewis
some. I saw that on.
Pena. Nothing steady at the moment. I'm kind of just like in the back cave working on recordings right now. But I'm gonna try and start getting some regular local performances going, either at probably Congress or I think Owls Club might have some music.
What about
like
the Century Room? Century Room? Is that too? You're not. It's not a strict bebop or post bop. Your bag is a little bit deeper.
I think it's a different color palette than what they curate.
Well, I mean but I mean in some ways that they need to take on that palette too.
I would agree with you.
You know?
I agree with you on that. But I'll definitely keep you in the loop for sure when the next shows are. And
Alassane, man.
I love talking to you, man.
Yeah, man. We'll do it over the phone too. We'll go longer, but much love to you, man.
Much love to you too, man.
All right,
I appreciate you.
It's the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll see you later.
Thank you.